Well, hello and welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing really, really well. I don't know why I have no background on at the moment. I don't know what's happened there, but I hope you're all doing really well. We have got a lot to talk about. Hello, Totally Clueless. How are you? Because it seems like today mainstream media finally decided to start reporting on the Friendly Jordies matter as far as the police in court today. And that's really what I want to focus on tonight, is the report of what's been said regarding in the media. So when I did my first video this morning, I could only find one article. Since then, it has exploded, which it needs to. Hello, everybody. Hello, Cal. Hello, Platinum Nana. Hello, David. Hello, Laker Damon. Yeah, Totally Clueless. So, yes, we've had a bit of an explosion as far as coverage is concerned, which it needs to have coverage. This matter needs coverage, which is why I'm still talking about it, because we need to talk about it. So, National Order Cook. And the Murdoch papers have even started reporting on it. And you know, when the Murdoch papers start reporting on it, there's issues. Hello. So, for example, this headline from news.com.au. A judge had harsh words for New South Wales Police on Wednesday over a bid to suppress YouTuber Friendly Jordies from talking about a court case. And then someone's written, even News Corp is reporting this. Friendly Jordies on a Murdoch news page. Never thought I'd see that. So, yeah, it's News Corp. Murdoch is covering it. Look at all the likes. So let's have a look at this one. Cops lashed over a bid to suppress YouTuber. As I said, you know you got problems when Murdoch starts covering it. So the police really copped a hammering today from what's been reported, which I would have to say was good. So it says New South Wales Police have been lashed by a Sydney magistrate for a misconceived attempt to have the YouTuber Friendly Jordies found in contempt of court over 2 videos about criminal allegations faced by his producer. Magistrate Jacqueline Millage described Jordan Shank's contempt as absolute gibberish in Dowling Street local court on Wednesday, but she said she could not see how it reached the high bar of contempt. I've never seen an application like that before in this court. She suggested police were giving Mr. Shanks oxygen, and those he had targeted, including Police Minister David Elliott, might need to be a bit more resilient. I like her. Why isn't she in the federal court doing Buzz's case? They might need to be a bit more resilient. The court was told the videos were about charges laid earlier this year against Mr. Shank's producer, Christo Lanka, who was accused of stalking former Deputy Premier John Barilaro. Mr. Lanka has pleaded not guilty, vowing to fight the charges at a hearing in May 2022. New South Wales Police have now asked the court to force Mr. Shanks to take down 2 videos about Mr. Lanka's case, effectively suppressing him from talking about it until the hearing and find him in contempt of court. But what was supposed to be a brief mention on Wednesday stretched into minutes and then hours, as the police lawyer admitted he had understood a crucial directive, and a tracksuit-wearing barrister listening in was mistaken for a fellow YouTuber and unceremoniously booted from the audio-visual link. Oh, sorry. I hadn't read this. This is hilarious. Like, this sounds like a comedy of errors. Police prosecution Amin Assad told the court Mr. Shank's videos could influence witnesses in Mr. Lanka's case to take a negative view of the prosecution. Don't need to do that. He described Mr. Shanks as a gift that keeps on giving, and he told Miss Millich a second video about the case had been published 15 hours ago. It had 250,000 views and it's only growing. Mr. Assad said Mr. Shanks could talk to his heart content about anything on this planet except for the hearing and evidence to be given in May 2022. We are not undermining free speech, he added. But Mr. Shanks' barrister, Philip Strickland SC, said the police application was flawed in a multitude of ways. It's the police wanting to shut down criticism of the police. It's tantamount to abusive process. Ms. Millich said publishing a video 15 hours ahead of court proceedings might display cheekiness or an up-yours attitude. But after reading the transcript of Mr. Shanks' latest offering, she declared, worse things are said about judicial officers every day in court proceedings. I've never seen an application like that before in this court. What are you saying that proves, she asked Mr. Assad. Being 100% factually incorrect in terms of the police minister, Mr. Assad said. So what? The police minister can sue him, she said. The magistrate said Mr. Shanks clearly doesn't know what he's talking about with regards to a lot of the matters he's raising, but he's entitled to his opinion about the strength of the case against Mr. Lanka. And idiotic as some people might think his views are, stifling them, she said. Mr. Assad argued Mr. Shanks was leading the charge against Mr. Lanka's prosecution. You're calling it a charge. It's not even a walk through the park, the magistrate replied. It's inane. He was further criticised by both the magistrate and Mr. Strickland for failing to file an affidavit in support of the application, which the police had been ordered to do early in September. Mr. Assad said he didn't recall the order being made. What? The magistrate eventually ordered the police to rewrite the application, which she described as clearly defective, and file all supporting evidence by next week. Mr. Strickland said the application should be dismissed altogether, but if police were permitted to alter it, they should pay Mr. Shanks' costs. Mr. Lanka's barrister, Emmanuel Kirisic, agreed, saying the police should pay Mr. Lanka's costs as they had wasted the whole day because of their conduct. Mr. Assad fought on, claiming a hefty sum Mr. Shanks had raised on GoFundMe meant he had not personally incurred the costs of the hearing and police should be spared from paying them. But Miss Millich disagreed and ordered the police to pick up the tab for both men. I'm not spending any more time on this matter today, she said. The matter returns to court on October 22. It's a shame that wasn't broadcast because that would have been hilarious. What? I've got so many questions. I have so many questions. How does a police prosecutor not remember what was ordered, was not ordered in the last hearing? How does he not know what was said in the last hearing? It actually sounds like a comedy of errors, to be honest with you. Oh, what do you reckon? Yes, yes, Nightbot. So just to remind you that I have a 10-year-old that's part of the channel, so hence why there's strict language parameters on it. So short term. Well, didn't he take notes? So let's look at let's see what the Sydney Morning Herald had to say about it. So it's, as I said, it's been covered in a lot of papers. I've got a lot of tabs open here. So, wanting to shut down criticism, police fight to remove Friendly Jordies video. So, an attempt by New South Wales Police to remove two videos from a high-profile YouTube channel should be refused because it is tantamount to the abusive process and represents police trying to shut down criticism of themselves, a court was told. So, I don't recall. Yeah, it's a bit like that. And don't forget, at this stage, Shanks has not been charged with anything. It was Christo's hearing, and they've dragged Shanks into it. Well, that's true, Platinum Nana. Mr. Lanka was arrested in June and charged with 2 counts of stalking former New South Wales New South Wales Deputy Premier John Barilaro, and he twice approached Mr. Barilaro, spoke to him, and he pleaded not guilty. Footage of Mr. Lanka's arrest at his Dulwich Hill home by members of the Fixated Persons Unit was published on the Friendly Jordies channel. So in a local court application this month, police are seeking for Mr. Shanks to remove all material about Lanka's case ahead of the full final hearing in May, as well as an order stopping him from commenting on the case or publishing any evidence. They really want that video down. They don't want the video of the arrest up. Let's face it. They're trying to stop it. Hello. Oh, thank you, Jenna. So I love this. On when police prosecutor told Downing Street Local Court that videos about Mr. Lanka could potentially influence civilian witnesses in the case if they remain online. So they're a bit concerned because he got 250,000 views in 15 hours. And don't forget the numerous people that have talked about it. And that's why I'm keeping it in the domain and talking about it, because let's just say they were successful and they were able to shut it down, then the rest of us would have to step up and keep talking about it. So we need to keep talking about it. The prosecutor said police were not interested in politics. Really? And Mr. Shanks was free to have videos on his channel about whatever he likes, as long as they are not specifically related to Mr. Lanka's criminal proceedings. Oh, dear. But see, Miss Millage described parts of the video as absolute gibberish and offensive, but suggested it was merely in poor taste, not contempt. There's nothing in there that causes me concern from a contempt of court point of view. Miss Millage said those involved in the justice system must be more resilient than a regular person, and a bruising such as the one police received in the video should be water off a duck's back. If it's not, sue him. Yes, so Sydney Morning Herald can cover the case, but anyway. So, yeah, it goes back to court the 22nd of October. Let me put that into my diary. I need to put that into my little... That is just bizarre, to be honest with you. That is bizarre. The 22nd, so that's next Friday. Christo. So, yeah, that is just really, really... but look, but I'm talking about, I think politicians should be thicker skinned. We're just seeing so many politicians at the moment suing because their feelings are hurt. This is the daily tally. Like, as I said, all the mainstream media started to get onto this case. So this one says, police attempts to silence and charge YouTuber Friendly Jordies with contempt. Derailed in court. So, and they've actually, look, they've actually put here, they've actually got the video linked about the arrest there. So all the police have done in effect is given Friendly Jordies more publicity. Hello. So police attempt to silence Friendly Jordies and charge the YouTuber with contempt of court has faltered after magistrate called their attempts to pull down his videos an ambush. But police will have a second chance after they argued the Labor firebrand was at risk of influencing witnesses. Of course, the Daily Tally has to talk about the fact that his, Labor firebrand, really? Friendly Jordies' real name, Jordan Shanks, has railed against New South Wales police in videos since his producer was arrested by the Fixated Persons Unit inside the Counter-Terror Command. Police prosecutor said Mr. Shanks was the gift that keeps on giving, and he was interfering with justice by sprouting 100% incorrect claims to his 500,000 followers. I think he's got more than that now. Oh. The police order, in its current form, may prevent all other media covering much of the core of the case, which will likely focus on issues of freedom of speech, the role of the counter-terror unit, and social media. Now, but I'm not media. I will keep talking. But yes, and I love this, but Magistrate Jacqueline Millich called the police application defective, noting prosecutors had disobeyed a court order to send all the required documents to Mr. Shanks. They didn't send in the documentation. So how do you know what you're going to find if you don't have? Police also want Mr. Shanks charged with contempt of court for his videos, but their application had not spelled out their claims. He was threatening the administration of justice. It's a really big deal to face contempt proceedings. For Mr. Shanks to know why something is on, he can't be ambushed, Magistrate Millich said. There has to be procedural fairness. Yeah. So there's no sign of... Police argued that hundreds of thousands of views in the two videos were making Mr. Shanks' money. You're adding to his purse, the magistrate said. Bang! I like it. All they have done is got more people interested in him. She concluded the courts shouldn't be stifling people, despite how idiotic some might find Friendly Jordies' views. Mr. Syed argued gagging Mr. Shanks was necessary to prevent him from influencing witnesses. He said prosecutors feared witnesses would be swayed against giving evidence or concluding Lanka was innocent. We've seen the video. He hasn't done what he's been accused of. Are they trying to say now that the video is doctored? Like, we've all seen the video. Halfway through the hearing, the magistrate kicked out who she believed to be was the tracksuited YouTube from the court's video link system. A man had appeared sitting in the car to watch proceedings, but the magistrate was informed it was actually a barrister interested in the case on his way for a COVID test, and the magistrate had to call him back to apologise. I've got nothing against YouTube. I think it's a fascinating channel, she assured the barrister. Mr. Shanks and Mr. Lanka outside court posed with self-styled freedom protester who tried to interview the YouTuber in the rain. So there's some barrister in the car and got kicked out. can't make this stuff up, can you? Hello, the fox. Oh, you cannot make this stuff up. Seriously, you can't. Well, let's have a look at how the ABC reported it. So this one, Sydney magistrate unimpressed by New South Wales Police application to suppress Friendly Jordies videos. So police have asked the court order to New South Wales Police have asked the court to order YouTube comedian Friendly Jordies to take down videos about a case against his producer. So we know all of this. As of 9 a.m, it had 248,000 views, he said. He's interfering with the administration of justice. He's in a position to influence witnesses. Oh, dear. Apparently, Shanks has 570,000 followers and was commenting about the strength of the prosecution brief. Isn't this giving all of that oxygen? She said police need to be specific about what they rely on for both the contempt and suppression issues rather than providing a dump of everything that's been said in the video. A dump of everything that's been said in the video. Oh, well, the police have been shown up so badly, in my opinion. Well, we've all seen the video. The thing is, we've all seen the video, right? Haven't we? We watched the video, and we've seen it. I do have the Clive Palmer versus WA stuff up here. So the fact that the Canberra Times, yes, it's been, as I said, they're starting to pick up. I'm not reading all of the articles, but you can go and look at that. Yes, many of us downloaded as well. So this one, police seek Friendly Jordies video takedown. Now there's an interesting thing in here. But so they're saying, the police were saying they were not interested in politics. We're not interested in the views. We're concerned now there are 2 videos that will or may interfere with the evidence. But this, see, there was no notice of the contempt application. Police said the application didn't spell out the allegation for contempt, but it did reference a relevant section of the local court. Miss Millage suggested the police had ambushed Shanks and had failed to set out their sub judice allegation. You can't charge someone with larceny and just say Section 117 of the Crimes Act. So, yeah, because I tell you, this magistrate, she was on the ball. She was not putting it up. And then the New South Wales says he wasn't granted the right of reply and that the video is racist and wrongly made contempt. Yeah, but so that's about the Shanks video. But yeah, I love this. You can't charge someone with larceny and just say Section 117. Somewhere in the code, if you get out your magnifying glass, you'll be able to see somewhere in the code. In the small print. So it also made, so I'm just going to show you, so it also made the Mandra. As a former police officer, I'm embarrassed. Well, and the thing is, and the really bad thing is that it makes all the good police officers look really bad. And that's the thing. So it made the Mandarin News, it made the West Australian. The West Australian the West Australian newspaper decided to focus on, so this is from the West Australian, they focused on, in the video on Tuesday evening, Shank said police wanted the court order, but they've talked about a document shown in the video, which he claims is a non-publication order, is littered with spelling errors, including Lanka's name and the word channel, and the suburb of the New South Wales Police headquarters. So they have actually, so the West Australian talked about the fact it was riddled with spelling errors. Oh dear. Well, maybe they did get KJ to do the paperwork. I can't think of any other explanation. Oh dear. So just on another those two guys that snuck into WA, bro, they got 10 months prison. They're in jail for 10 months. They have been given a prison sentence. What do you make about that? They got 10 months. I don't know whether he got any statuettes. He probably deserves some statuettes. Two selfish Victorian men who breached West Australian strict COVID travel laws to go to the AFL Grand Final have ended up in the rooms of the Victorian Melbourne teams, have been handed 10-month jail terms. But 7 months of the sentences imposed will be suspended. The sentences were also backdated to the time the men were arrested, meaning they'll be eligible for release at the end of December. I don't think they'll be breaking COVID restrictions again. So the court was told they flew into West Australia 3 days before the AFL Grand Final after getting permission to enter the state from Darwin for falsifying documents, including Northern Territory driver's licence and ANZ bank statement. They'd flown to Darwin 8 days earlier from Melbourne, which had a COVID outbreak. Did not declare anywhere on the application to enter WA they'd been in Victoria. Police prosecutor Martin Nakerville said the men attended the AFL Grand Final, where there were more than 61,000 spectators and staff. It could have been a super spreader. They were also photographed and filmed after the match, celebrating with the Melbourne players, staff and supporters. Described the offences of selfish, saying they were aggravated by the dangerous nature of the Delta strain, which was in Melbourne, as well as the fact the two men later travelled to regional WA. So the lawyer accepted the prison term was called for, but urged Magistrate Matthew Holgate to consider suspending it. Said Babbage fully accepted that he'd entered WA for the selfish reason of attending football, but claimed he simply did not turn his mind to the possible consequence of his actions. Told the court that Babbage had flown out of Melbourne. He'd come from Mount Hotham, which at the time was not in lockdown. He also said Babbage was fully vaccinated when he was in the Northern Territory. He did get a COVID test, which was negative. He didn't think he was hurting anyone, hadn't come from an area that was under stay-at-home orders, didn't have COVID. He made an appalling decision. He simply didn't turn his mind to it. He's remorseful for what he's done. He's otherwise of good character. He was an excellent sportsman and had represented Australia in skiing. The other lawyer said the continued lockdowns in Melbourne had contributed to his client's offences because his restaurant in Paran, to which he devoted his life, had shut down and had taken a mental toll on him. It's taken a mental toll on his soulmate. Burbank was having contact with only 3 members of his family, including his father, who was in declining health and with whom he'd shared the love of Melbourne Football Club. Court heard he'd previously been diagnosed with some mental health issues because of the financial strain caused by lockdown. He was unable to access psychiatric help. Said that those issues impaired his decisions to make judgments and calm and rational decisions. Yeah. Well, guess what? Join the club. Many of us have just dealt with lockdown. You know, what we do. It's what we do. Oh, and some really good news for an area in New South Wales that was neglected. So if you remember, we were talking about Wilcannia. They had one of the worst rates of COVID. Well, they have just gone down to 0 cases. They've got 0 active cases, overcoming Australia's worst per capita outbreak. They've just done it. They've done it. There are now 0 cases in Wilcannia, declared the last 2 infected people free of the virus. The Far West Local Health District said all 152 people who contracted COVID-19, more than 20% of the town's population, have recovered. It is a stunning turnaround for the remote, predominantly Aboriginal town, which has emerged from Australia's worst COVID outbreak per capita, with only 1 hospitalisation from the virus. The apparent end to the months-long outbreak also comes despite high rates of chronic disease and other health conditions. There are no new cases reported anywhere in far west New South Wales on Wednesday, making the region's first 24-hour period without new infections since August. So I think it's too dangerous to stop in. So Wilcannia man Owen said he was taken aback by how quickly his town was able to get on top of the outbreak. It was a big surprise to myself and the community. They didn't realise how quick this would end, but everyone got together and went and got tested. So he could not eat back pain during he experienced back pain, couldn't eat properly during his bout of COVID. He said lockdown and multiple isolation periods have been frustrating for everyone, but it was amazing to be able to go back to the Darling River again. We love to go fishing, swimming, boating. So they're going back to normal life now, but it's really good news. So they were the motorhomes, so where they were isolating the people who were COVID positive to try and limit it. But I think that's very good news that they've now got 0 cases after all this time. So yes, so that is some really, really good news. And I know, and I'm just letting you know, I'm not talking about KJ. We're not going to look at her lives because I believe that her Instagram live was not very good today because, yeah, I just heard about it, and we were all traumatized last time. Well, today's would be because they released the cause of death of Gabby Petito today, and yeah. No, I didn't. I'll have to. I'll see if I can find that Southwest American Airlines flights. Okay. Friendly Jordies did something about the water, Wilcannia. That's how I found out about Wilcannia. Oh yeah, there we go. 2 days ago, 13 hours ago. So let's have a look. This is the New York Times. So, that one's saying the airline blamed traffic control and disruptive weather. So they're saying weather challenges. We briefly suffered staffing shortage. So yeah, I don't know. It says they're saying it's weather. Oh no! Look at this. Look at this. Look at this headline here. Minnesota hospitals are nearing capacity as a virus surge batters the state. Why hasn't that been mentioned? Oh yeah, American and Southwest Airlines reject the Texas order banning vaccine mandates. Because you're ready for your booster shots, isn't it? In the US, are you ready for your booster shots? Oh yeah, Southwest. It would join several of its competitors inquiring all employees to get vaccinated. About the mandate, it said it did not oppose the vaccination, had warned the enforcement of such a mandate could lead to labour shortages and flight disruptions. The union is suing the airline for taking a series of unilateral actions, including vaccination requirements. In court on Friday, a court filing, the union said the mandate unlawfully imposes new conditions of employment on pilots and asked the judge to stop the airline from enacting that requirement along with other policies and actions. So United Airlines, the first large US carrier to impose a mandate, said nearly all of its 67,000 employees had been vaccinated, except for about 2,000 who had applied for religious or medical exemptions, and fewer than 250 who faced being fired for failing to comply. American Airlines, Alaska Airlines, JetBlue Airlines have followed suit. Delta Air said it would not require vaccination, but will charge unvaccinated employees $200 more a month for health insurance. So there you go. But yes, it says here, Minnesota hospitals are nearing capacity. Somebody's not talking about that. Look, I know there's lots of court cases at the moment about vaccine mandates in. So there's talk about them bringing forward our restrictions, easing our restrictions early. I'm not really for that. I think you've got to keep it at what it is. But anyway. Well, considering that said person went out the other week to get hair and face done, and there seems to be a virus surge. Why would you put your son at risk if there's a surge of cases in your area? Or am I just being too logical? Am I just being too logical? Not exactly early. The benchmark is 70 to 80%. Yeah, I don't know. Look, I'm more cautious. I'm more of the cautious type. Oh, well, that's not quite true, Will. I would debate and argue that, because how many times have I mentioned? Look, I have a lot of videos go orange, but I actually ask for them to be manually reviewed, and I've only had one be rejected. So I don't mind, and I really don't care at the end of the day, to be honest. I was going to say, I thought the experts said 80%, and we're going to watch. I really thought they were going to see what happened in New South Wales, because New South Wales freaks me out. This won't be a long live either. So just so that you all know, I love spending time with you, but I've got I've got lots of I've got still got lots of work to do tonight. So I really wanted to just talk about all the friendly Geordie stuff. But let's have a talk about Clive Palmer. So Clive Palmer sued the WA government. And he lost. Well, and that's the thing, that all the images that I've seen from New South Wales have been no social distancing, no masks indoors, and it freaks me out. I'm just a little bit paranoid. Yeah, I'm down. So next week is 6 weeks to go. Like, it's the countdown, and I've got eight assignments in 6 weeks. So, yeah, there's still a lot of work to be done. Like, there's essays and mixing and recording and all sorts of, like, there's still heaps of stuff to do. So, you know, I'm probably in 2 weeks in about 2 weeks' time, most of my coursework finishes, and it's exams. So then I have 4 weeks of exams type stuff. So, yeah. Well, and that's why I'm surprised Victoria's even considering it, because I really want to sit back and watch. But anyway, Clive Palmer lost his High Court battle with WA in a challenge a law that prevents him from suing the state for up to $30 billion. Mr. Palmer wanted to sue after decisions made about his Balmoral South iron ore projects in the Pilbara led to financial loss. Well, that's all right. And then I go back to studying next year, and I'm looking at studying law. So, you know, I'm just going to go harder and do more study. But I think the law will be cool to focus on entertainment, media, and music. So, yeah. Anyway, he said the law targeted and discriminated against him as a Queenslander and interfered with the independence of the court. But today, in a unanimous decision, the High Court ruled the law passed by WA Parliament to prevent him or his company suing the state was valid. And he represented himself. Well, it was a colourful and unusual High Court hearing involving the mining magnate running over several days instead of a usual one. Mr. Palmer's company was represented by senior barristers, but he represented himself, breaking down as he told the court he'd been personally targeted as a Queenslander. Oh, no way. Thank you, Kim. I have been told by somebody I'm very tenacious and I don't give up. And my response to that is only if I'm right. If I'm right about something, I can be horrible. If I know that I'm right, I will dig my heels in and fight to the bitter end. So his company's had a barrister, but he represented himself, saying he'd been personally targeted as a Queenslander. The case harks back to decisions made by an earlier Liberal government about Mr. Palmer's Pilbara Balmoral South Iron Ore project. The project has never gained the necessary approvals despite mediation. Mr. Palmer said he suffered a huge financial loss because he was unable to sell the project to a Chinese company as a result of decisions by the government. A law was passed to prevent him from suing the government. At first, Mr. Palmer denied he was seeking about $30 billion in damages, but the government used Parliament to reveal court documents which showed he was seeking at least $27.24 billion. Well, that's the other thing, Kim, is that I ask questions and I don't take everything at face value. And if you've been following the shenanigans over the last few days, there's a few things that have happened involving KJ and Toad that I haven't talked about because I haven't really. I'm not sure where I stand on it, and I don't want to. it's already, some of the stuff's really messy, and I don't want to make it any more messy without getting my head around it. I like to think about things. And I'm dealing with a situation at the moment where I am involved in something, but I've been able to remove myself in the decision making and look at it objectively. So that's another thing I can do. I can try and look at things objectively. But anyway, the second reading speech for the law noted that was equivalent to the state's entire budget. So he was trying to sue for the whole entire budget of the state. What? Mr. Palmer and his companies argued he was discriminated against because he was from Queensland, and the law inferred with the independence of the courts. The West Australian lawyers rejected those arguments and said the state was entitled to limit its liabilities. So the West Australian Premier, Mark McGowan, took to Facebook to declare the ruling in the High Court a monumental victory. Time and time again, Clive Palmer has attempted to bring our state down, first by challenging the hard border that kept West Australians safe, then by launching an outrageous legal claim for damages. Today's win is proof that our government will never stop fighting for the people of Western Australia. Mr. McGowan said that Mr. Palmer's claims for damages, if they had been upheld in the High Court, it would have left our state bankrupt. The Premier's sentiment was shared by WA's Attorney General John Quigley. Now he's a QC, isn't he? John Quigley. I think he was a QC. It's funny. Victoria, the opposition, has an Attorney General who is not even a lawyer. But anyway, he said. But I'm sure John Quigley was a QC. The High Court has thrown out his appeals, which wiped out the ridiculous $30 billion claim against the West Australian taxpayers, which would have been $12,000 to individual taxpayers. He said the WA government brought in the laws to stop the greedy grab for West Australia's money, which would have meant doubling our debt. Mr. Quigley said Mr. Palmer now owed the state of West Australia $2 million in legal costs, on top of the $1 million already incurred in the failed challenge over WA borders. Kim, it's best to be out of the loop. So he already owes the states over $1 million over his challenge to our borders, and he refuses to write the check. If he doesn't pay, the next time he flies into WA in that big fancy check, we will have that jet arrested. He'll have to catch the train home. I love it. They'll take the jet. Next time he flies in his jet, we'll keep the jet. I love it. Oh, that's hilarious. I don't know if they have handcuffs that big. I wonder how much the jet is worth. Oh, that is classic. I love that. Oh. See, I'm at that point now where I'm finding the most stupid things funny. So, all right. So we know that Gladys Berejiklian has to face the Independent Commission Against Corruption. Former Premier, New South Wales Premier, Mike Baird, has been called as a witness. He's actually going to be giving evidence. So it starts on Monday and is expected to last for 2 weeks. Baird replaced Baird as New South Wales Premier in 2017, and apparently she's not on the list of witnesses for next week. So, so they're trying to work out whether she breached public trust in awarding $2 multi-million-dollar grants to community organisations in Wagga electorate of former MP Darryl Maguire at the time when she was in a secret relationship with him. Now, Mr. Baird appointed Miss Berejiklian treasurer in 2015. So he's one of the first witnesses to be called and will give evidence on Wednesday. So she was treasurer when this happened. Mr. Ayres will be questioned on Friday, and so she's not on the list of witnesses. So it's been 2 weeks since she resigned as Premier and say, her shock resignation. So I know it does sound like it starts on Monday. So last year she revealed that, unknown to her family and colleagues, she'd been in a relationship on Mr. Maguire since 2015. But Mr. Maguire told the inquiry that the close personal relationship began as early as 2013 and continued right up until last year when ICAC began. So he admitted receiving thousands of dollars in commissions from China for cash for visa scheme. He also admitted using parliamentary office and staff to conduct business for his company, Gateway International. Payco, I did something on it the other day. So ICAC heard phone intercepts of conversations between the pair during which Mr. Maguire discussed his business dealings. At one stage, Berejiklian interrupted him and said, "You don't need to tell me that bit." In her resignation speech, she denied being involved in any corruption. "I've always had the highest level of integrity. I have no regrets during my time in public life." Yeah, so I did look at that the other day. However, I usually go by what's in the news of the day, and sort of there's not been much about IBAC in the news today. Friendly Jordies has sort of knocked off the news. It's actually, there's. I'm sure somebody will tell me that I've missed it, but I just usually go through the Guardian and the ABC and just pick up their reports there. Hello, Sky. So that's what's sort of been going on. Well, there was footage today of Mr. Family Guy walking to the car without a mask today. Where's the outrage? Oh, I know that there's corrupt politicians, corrupt cops. There's corrupt people in every walk of life. There are bad teachers. There are bad cops. There are bad doctors. There are bad nurses. But you can't say that they're all bad because one or two are bad. There are bad YouTubers. That doesn't make all YouTubers bad, you know? So, in fact, there's been 2 photos taken of the opposition, the Victorian opposition, not wearing masks. Well, Dictator Dan can do what he chooses because he seems to. I've heard some interesting stories, but the only thing I will say is he has stepped up as a leader and he's actually taken the opinion of health officials rather than popular opinion. And that, or the opinion of, he hasn't taken the easy option, which would be to have opened up. So I have to, you have to respect. I respect somebody that makes the tough decisions. If you're prepared to stand firm and take the. Oh, was it? Let's have a look. All right, let's have a look if I can find it. If you're prepared to stand up, I know about it, Sky. I know about it. I haven't watched it. I know about it. I haven't watched it. I'm a bit torn by it. I've heard lots of comments. I've heard lots of commentary about it. I've heard lots of coverage about it. I don't know. However, I do believe he did comment on one of the on a comment, and he didn't deny it. So, thanks, Andrew. I'm just trying to find it at the moment. That's what oh, here we go. Can the problem that I have is if we're going to talk about corruption, we need to also look at the feds. Oh, look at this.
There are fresh developments this morning in the murder investigation.
Oh no, this was in depth. That's not. That's why I only live against. Cool. Well, that's really cool. So this is that's the one, is it? Is this the one? It says, can the government stop defamatory social media rules? So this one says, how Gabby Petito murder case has driven mainstream and social media obsession. Which one? Is that this one? But it's interesting they got Gabby Petito there because they're talking about has driven mainstream and social media obsession. The second one, okay. Coward's Palace, okay. Because we know of one YouTuber that has an obsession over it. All right, so let's have a look at this then.
After the private lives of our politicians, more rumours on social media, and a government vowing to crack down.
Social media has become a coward's palace where people can just go on there, not say who they are, destroy people's lives, and say the most foul and offensive things to people, and do.
Coward's Palace. All right, I'll do it again. The dog was featured.
After the private lives of our politicians, more rumours on social media, and a government vowing to crack down.
Social media has become a coward's palace where people can just go on there, not say who they are, destroy people's lives, and say the most foul and offensive things to people, and do so with impunity. Now, that's not a free country where that happens.
The Prime Minister was fuming on Thursday about anonymous defamatory smears and the platforms that publish them. And it was the right week to speak up, with US Congress probing Facebook and a whistleblower revealing the tech giant's alleged indifference to causing social harm.
You know, two YouTubers that can't stop talking about it. I don't mind YouTubers talking about it, but I object to them making money off it. You know, they're making money off it, and that's what I object to.
But it was the trolls at home that sparked Morrison's outburst, and in particular his deputy's very personal confession to Radio National.
Your family's been subject to vicious online rumours in recent days. Is your government going to push tech companies harder to crack down on misinformation?
I think it's absolutely essential that we do.
Barnaby Joyce was ready for the next question and poised to hit back. So what were these vicious online rumours?
my daughter is a strong person, and she had a completely malicious rumour. Basically, people saying that she had been in a relationship with John Barilaro, and that's why he left, which is just total and utter rubbish.
John Barilaro, of course, suddenly announced his departure as New South Wales Nationals leader last Monday, in the wake of Gladys Berejiklian standing down as Premier. And with speculation rife as to why he'd quit, Joyce wanted to kill the rumours about his daughter, who was one of Barilaro's advisors.
When you have local media outlet...
Tell me, how does a 20-odd-year-old get to be an advisor to a deputy premier out of interest? Is it a bit suspicious that the Deputy Prime Minister's daughter is an advisor to the Deputy Premier of New South Wales?
To kill the rumours about his daughter, who was one of Barilaro's advisors.
When you have local media outlets actually approaching you, asking you for comment on this, and you say, what is your source? And their source is Facebook or their source is Twitter. And he said, well, it's no good that these platforms just say, oh, well, sorry, it's too hard to control.
Joyce's intervention, of course, sparked headlines of its own and put his daughter and Barilaro right in the spotlight. With Seven, News.com.au and the Daily Mail all quick to jump on the scandal.
Barnaby Joyce hits out an outrageous allegation his daughter, 25, had an affair with John Barilaro while working for him, causing the Nationals leader to resign.
I ask the question again. How does a 25-year-old get to be a senior advisor to the Deputy Premier?
It's certainly true that social media was awash with scuttlebutt, which surfaced last Monday, minutes after Barilaro announced he was stepping down. Tim Graham from the QUT's Digital Media Research Centre has mapped around 4,500 tweets mentioning Barilaro and staffer, or Barilaro and affair, or Barilaro and Barnaby Joyce, and highlighted half a dozen prominent accounts and a fringe news site spreading the rumours. But real journalists have been asking questions too, as the Financial Review's rogue columnist Joe Aston pointed out shortly after Barnaby put his colleague into play.
The new fire in Barilaro's belly was terminated rather suddenly. Could that be related in any way to the live inquiries of multiple senior political journalists in Sydney and Canberra into Barilaro's conduct and issues relating to his ministerial office?
Wow.
There were also scandal hunters at Barilaro's farewell press conference, where questions and answers seemed to be dancing around something.
People who might be suspicious about the timing of, resignation, assurances that there's nothing, else going on, no scandals, that's great.
Well, again, if that was the case, I would be allowed to comment anyway. So, as I said, I just don't make any comments around the ICAC. The weeks, the months ahead. Let's see what occurs, pretty much. No, nothing's looming for me.
So far, there are only unsubstantiated rumours from anonymous sources. But the government's concerned about the damage even they can do. And last week, the PM made clear he wants to punish the trolls and their platforms.
Oh, he wants to. Who else talks about trolls and punishing the trolls? I'm going to get a photo in front of Brothers. Cool. Who else talks about trolls and punishing the trolls?
We have been a world leader on this, and we intend to set the pace because we value our free society. And in a free society, you can't be a coward and attack people and expect not to be held accountable for it.
But what can the government really do to shut them up, if anything? There is a new Online Safety Act giving more power to the E-Safety Commissioner to remove online content, which comes into force in January. But that is targeted at cyberbullying and child exploitation, not political gossip. And the only other weapon in the government's locker is a vague proposal to make Facebook liable for defamatory posts on its platforms. But that's surely as Buckley's chance of ever happening. And if politicians have to go after individual trolls, there are thousands to deal with, many have next to no money, and some will never pipe down.
Shane Young here. Now, I just want to do a quick video on the real reasons New South Wales Deputy
Premier John Barilaro has resigned. Shane Dowling's been sued for defamation several times, jailed twice for criminal contempt, and now faces a third stint in the clanger after setting up anonymous websites to publish defamatory material on Kerry Stokes and his business interests. And even though much of what he puts on his site is defamatory nonsense, he keeps on publishing it. So, don't believe politicians who tell you trolls can be stopped. Sadly, smear and rumour is more and more a fact of political life, even if ultimately some of it turns out to be true.
So there you go. There you go. That is interesting. Yeah, Shane Dowling, isn't he? He runs the Kangaroo Court. If you follow Kangaroo Court or seen any articles from Kangaroo Court, that's him. So we will know. We will know, I guess, at some stage down the track whether or not the rumour with the staffer is true. It has been told that it has been said that a staffer was given a new posting, but the fact that Joyce's daughter was a senior advisor to Barilaro at 25, sort of, we can get on together with suspicious minds. I'm not saying that there was anything wrong, anything was going on, but when you've got a 25-year-old being a senior advisor, what does a 25-year-old know in the scheme of things? Yeah, Shane Dowling. Yeah, some of the stuff he does is good, and some of it is bad. What his father tells it. Oh, but yeah, I just find it very bizarre about an advisor, senior advisor at 25. Anyway, on that note, I'm going to call it a night, and so thank you all for joining me. So it's been a very interesting day today, particularly in the courts, where the New South Wales Police got a tongue lashing, got hammered by the magistrate. So it's 22nd again. It all goes back. They've got to rewrite their documents, and so we'll see what they've got to do. But we need to keep talking about it. We have to keep hashtagging Fire McQueen. We have to keep showing support. Make sure you go to Friendly Jordies channel, like and subscribe. I am not media, so they can try and blanket the media, but I'm not. We're gonna keep this outrage up. So anyway, so thank you for joining me. As I said, it will depend on how I go with my uni work. It will depend on whether I stream at night, but I will try and give you as much notice as I can. But thank you all, and I will catch you again soon. Let me just find my music.